Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We are ready to roll game number 3, FX Open, up against Gold Gaming Los Angeles. Not good game, not GGLA, just Gold Gaming Los Angeles. Gotta get that snuck up there in the good old noggin. Forgo Jester here in Azaraki. Game number 3, as I said, ready to roll here on the Mobafire Challenger Series. If you guys aren't following us out there on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook, what are you doing, guys? I mean, all these big chances to go win some awesome prizes from our sponsors, iBuyPower, Fatality, as well as Razor Academy. So make sure you go out there, you hit those follow buttons, and get yourself some gear.
Yes, and right now we're going to see FX Open versus Gold Gaming LA. I keep wanting to just say GGLA.
Yep, I know, right?
Gold Gaming. And, you know, FX Open, so far, they've had 2-0 run. Let's see if we will continue that winning streak today. And you know, Wasabi was able to keep theirs. Let's see how this goes.
Alright, so on your left-hand side, FXO, on the right, GGLA, with, you know, of course, all the GGLA tags. But if, you know, don't know anything about this, guys, Umashi basically put together the team of Gold Gaming Los Angeles. As I said, I kind of call their logo the basketball logo. It looks like, you know, the Los Angeles Lakers. It looks like these big basketball sports logos. Very themed, very thematic. But yeah, Umashi, you know, kind of just put together that team. Really having a fun time with it. You will notice, however, Nick Wu here on the blue side. He's going to be playing with Robert X. Lee and Nidus Main. Some big names on FXO tonight.
Oh yeah, no doubt. And Thresh ban first off, and I actually forgot to mention this last game, but last game there was no Thresh ban or Thresh pick, which, you know, surprised me a little bit. It's not too often you see Thresh completely go under the radar of both teams, but, you know, Thresh still worth a ban, no doubt. However, the rest of the bans, Gragas, Shen, Zac, pretty good, and Shen Twisted Fate banned for FXO. They really don't like that global pressure that both Shen and Twisted Fate bring, and past that, you know, you have Nocturne, you have Karthus, but they're nowhere near as powerful as Shen or Twisted Fate, who have complete, you know, full-on teleports, so they can get their entire person there, whereas Karthus, his ultimate just puts out a little bit of damage, and Nocturne can't really get too far in terms of range of his ultimate, so really like the bans there, but really rapid-fire picks as well. Nick Wu going to first pick Nunu for his team, and looks like Gold Gaming going for Nami and Nasus. We've been seeing a lot of Nasus today.
Yeah, just like last week, I think we had a 100%, at least on my day of casting, of Caitlyn's. So far, we're 3 for 4 on Nasus. However, Nunu does get through those bans, and he gets picked up first for FX Open. FX Open, looking at their jungle, doesn't actually have Nunu there in the top play, probably because it gets banned, you know, every single game. But that Gragas ban, that's definitely looking at Arthalon. He really likes to play that Gragas mid. In fact, he actually has listed Elise, Nidalee, and Gragas for the top picks, and as you see, Elise panned out there as well, but we've seen her 2 for 2, and we can see the power of the spider, so I'm not really too surprised about that.
Yeah, one thing, you know, picking Caitlyn after you already have Nunu, sort of a little bit of an odd choice, because Caitlyn is not really that much of a hyper carry. If, say, we had Nunu Vayne, then late game, that would be a complete powerhouse, but at the same time, Caitlyn, as we've seen already, can dominate early game pretty easily. Unfortunately, in the last game, wasn't able to continue to dominate throughout the game, but they just really let Vayne have a little bit too much in terms of free reign, but hopefully this time they can start the pressure early, and then afterwards keep the pressure on. And in terms of late game, you know, Caitlyn doesn't have the attack speed steroid. She doesn't really have much of a steroid in the first place, so Blood Boil is going to help her out quite a bit as well, just to give her more early game power. And with Blood Boil, she is going to be able to stand against Vayne, who, you know, Gold Gaming picking both Lissandra and Vayne, and Nami actually going with a very similar comp to the last game. Wow, we're going to see some great initiations once again with Lissandra Nami.
Well, hey, if they were watching last game, they would have taken a few notes. It's just like, 5 seconds of invulnerability. Vayne can solo Caitlyn. Okay, well, sure, let's do it. But yeah, look, a lot of pickups going on, as you can say. Again, you know, a lot of Caitlyn going around, a lot of Nasus. Second game in a row with Lissandra. I really did like the Lissandra pickup last round. Zamfira putting on a clinic of how to do the Ice Lady. But other than that, you know, I haven't really seen her too much outside of some of these matchups. Sometimes in the LCS, but sometimes not. Either way, you know, Robert X. Lee, I wonder where all his fans are right now. But Roberto X. Lee, because he's been banned a few times, if I recall.
But it looks like he is going to go ahead and stick with Rumble for his pick. Now, Rumble is a very good top laner. He can especially against someone like Nasus, he can out all in Nasus pretty easily. Whereas Nasus, you know, he has to get close to the minions to try to land that CS, try to make sure his Q gets farmed up, and something that Roberto actually can do on Rumble is basically shut him down whenever he goes to go for that CS. So that's going to help him out in the top lane quite a bit. So both of these comps, and just giving the last couple of rundowns, looks like going for poke comp. Yeah, definitely poke comp. With Nidalee as well, Nidalee as well as Caitlyn, and then Janna obviously can power up Caitlyn really easily. And on top of that, snowballs throwing out every now and again is also really good for poke. And you also have harpoons on Rumble, so they've got some really nice poke on their team. Whereas Gold Gaming, they're looking more towards the big team fights where they have people who can catch other people out, like Ahri, we have Lissandra, Nasus. They can all catch people out really well. And on top of that, they have the follow-up damage to continue with champions like Ahri and Vayne. So both of these comps playing it out very differently. We're not seeing the straight up team fight versus team fight comps. So I'm going to have to see how this game actually turns out.
I mean, I did say Elise, Nidalee, Gragas, right? For Arthalon, picks up a Nidalee. Awesome times. So Robert Exley on that carry row in the bottom. Take off some of those summoner blockers for you guys. I Dream in the chat saying, guys, you're copying our comp. What's going on here? But I mean, it was a pretty successful comp. The Vayne, Lissandra, Nami. But this round, I mean, who's going to be top lane? I can't really see an Ahri going into a solo top by herself.
No, I don't really see that either. I think, like you said, Lissandra is probably going to have a little bit of a better time in the top lane. And Nasus is actually going to be jungling this game after we saw that last pick of Ahri. So it's not going to be a Rumble versus Nasus. And in this case, you know, it's actually going to work out pretty well because Lissandra has quite a bit of range. She can secure CS from a long enough range to stay out of the big danger zone of Rumble. So she's going to fare pretty well in the top lane. So that's not going to be too big of a problem. And one of the biggest points we want to touch on is the bot lane. Once again, we have the Janna Caitlyn versus Nami and Vayne. Rematch right there. So we'll see how this one goes. If they can shut down Vayne in the early game, that's really good. But they have to keep the pressure on. They have to make sure that she doesn't get back into the game, which is what happened last game with Wasabi Gaming.
Well, I mean, we clearly saw that the Janna Caitlyn was just able to outpush the entire lane. I think they got the first tower about 7.5 minutes, so we're gonna have to keep an eye on that. Of course, we might not even have, you know, those standard lanes come out. We might even have some swaps going around. And Janna Caitlyn, imagine with the help of a Nunu and a Blood Boil coming in for a gank 3-on-1, getting the first blood, Blood Boil out the Caitlyn, shield the Caitlyn, get that massive damage pumping, take a turret in the first 5 minutes. I could definitely see that happening.
I could as well. The big risk that FXOPEN has if they initiate the lane swap is they're giving Vayne a little bit of her own free farm, so they're going to have to watch out for that a little bit. It's going to be really interesting to see how this game draws out. Now, looking at the summoner spells, both supports this game are actually going to go right back to that exhaust pick. No heals, no ignites, you know, going back to the standard. It's been standard since, you know, Season 2. And looking at the 80 carries, barrier, and cleanse, once again, not really too many things that we don't see.
Well, we're going to have to see what we do see coming up. Game number 3 of 4 tonight, guys. FXO going up against Gold Gaming Los Angeles. We're going to have a few words from our sponsors, and we'll see you in-game. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Loading screens are enacted. On your blue side, it's going to be FXOPEN sitting at a lovely score of 2-0 so far in our brackets. Their competitors on the red, GGLA, the Gold Gaming Los Angeles, 1-for-1. Let's see if they can break their stale, you know, stalemate. I want to say stalemate. I don't know why. Their tie and grab that win, or is it going to be a 3-0 FXO? Not entirely too sure. Forgor Jester here with the Azaraki Dragon for the Mobafire Challenger Series, and you guys have gone and followed all the social media, right? Because our social media managers are giving away gear. You got to be following them. Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook. Look for the Mobafire, and we're getting into game number 3.
And already a ton of pings going down, and the same strategies we see over and over again. Nami's going out toward her own blue. She might have to be a little bit careful right there, but nothing's going to happen. But, you know, once again, she's going to go ahead and ward that bush right there and going around to make sure that every entrance to their own blue buff is covered, just like we saw in the last game, only with a different team. And right now, the rest of Gold Gaming is looking up to gear up for a blue invade. However, FXOPEN already have their own wards out up there as well, so we might see sort of just them swapping buffs, or we might also see people just sticking to their own buffs. Not quite sure what's going to happen yet, but it looks like both teams are right about ready to invade the enemy's blue.
And Wappa Chang was actually doing some dancing there in the bush, but if they do go for this, let's take a quick look at Vision. Yeah, very obvious that the blue buff is going to be their target. We also got Nick Wu. He's just going to throw down some harpoons. It's okay. A little bit of harass. Wow, that actually chased GGLA out. Oh, come on. They clearly know that the rest of the team's bottom. Come on.
Yeah, I think Gold Gaming is sort of trying to decide what to do. Not quite getting anything of that right there, but it looks like FXOPEN is actually the ones that will be returning to their own jungle. But of course, Gold Gaming sees this with their own ward coverage, so we're just sort of having a dance right now where Gold Gaming is running into the enemy jungle and then running back out to the river, and FXOPEN is doing the exact same thing, but it looks like they're going to go back, take their own red buff. However, this is going to give FXOPEN their advantage because they're going to go ahead and take this blue buff right there. Heaven Time already having it down. Wow, really good play right there.
So I kind of predicted the lane swap. I didn't exactly expect Robert Lee and Midas Remain to be camping out mid, but we have seen this before here in the MCS all last week, game 1, 2, and 3. Aha! Pause overlay. I'm not using that middle click. It's no minimap for you. But we have
Wouldn't
seen
be an MCS game without a pause.
True enough. We have seen the ADC and the support go mid before. I'm a little curious as to their choice of Ahri, but c'est la vie. They're going to be here in the mid. We also got Lissandra in the bottom and to take on that Nidalee. I kind of expected the Nidalee to be mid, but of course she has now been swapped out. So that leaves us Rumble with the 2v1 top.
Yeah, Rumble is going to be in that 2v1 top. What Gold Gaming is going to have to be careful of is they're going to have to be careful of forcing too much of their own aggression onto Rumble, because Rumble has some amazing turning power. If you accidentally get too close, he can easily burn down most of your health. At this point, Gold Gaming, they're going to want to farm out Vayne as much as possible, and when Wappa Chang gets up there, they can push out the tower as much as they want to their heart's content. And in the meantime, FXOPEN, as you said, they're forcing their AD carry and support to the mid lane, so they're going to be trying to push down that tower as well. There goes the end of the pause, so we're going to be able to actually see how this game ends up playing out.
Yeah, so Nick Wu, 2v1. We're going to have Nidalee. I'm going to swap these guys on the scoreboard. Nidalee to Lissandra, even though they're not mid. They're just kind of bottom, so as long as they're facing each other on the scoreboard, it's all good. So yeah, Heaven Time already level 2. Has that blue. They did steal it out. Nasus, however, I'm not entirely too sure he's going to get himself a blue this round. It's very reminiscent of game number 1 that we had tonight, where we stole out the enemy blue, and then Reality Check Gaming just never, ever got it back. But we'll have to see what happens there. Where did Caitlyn go? She went out here to help out Nunu. No, she's going to get the blue. So that tells me that they're going to be doing really a lot of Piltover spam in this mid.
Yeah, and on top of that, they also took it away from Gold Gaming, and they knew Gold Gaming, 4 of them were trying to converge to try to take that, but Caitlyn ended up picking it up, and as you said, those Piltover Peacemakers, they're just going to come over and over and over again, poking down Easy so much. There's not really going to be too much he can do to defend against this tower, and now that Nunu's here, they're really, really looking for that early game tower, and even though Wappa Chang is here, they're going to get quite a bit of damage, maybe even taking it down to half, as we know early game, Nasus doesn't really have too much in his kit. He has a little bit of damage, but once the Wither goes down, as soon as the Wither wears off, there's really not too much he can continue to do in a gank.
Yeah, Nick Wu's just kind of trying to fend off top as we have GGLA just trying to fend off this mid, but it's going to be tornadoes, it's going to be ice balls to consume, so we can even go under the tower for a little bit, just consume all that damage back. It's going to basically be forcing Wapachang's hand. He can't really leave this mid, otherwise it's just going to go down that much faster.
And wow, they are going to try to take down that tower very, very quickly. Nasus is doing a great job shielding Robert X. Lee to make sure that he takes down the tower as fast as possible, and Robert X. Lee not ignoring the Caitlyn traps. Once again, if you're proficient with Caitlyn, you're not going to ignore any part of her kit, and her traps can really be a good use of zoning, as we see right here. Even though Nasus is clearing them out right now, it's still giving him a little bit of damage. They're getting sight, and they want to make sure that they're pushed behind their tower.
Well, I said a 3v1 in the mid, get the gank, the shields, the blood boil, and a 5-minute tower. It doesn't look like the 5-minute part is going to work, but it has now solidified into this 3v2. Both junglers have been sticking around in the mid. Nunu's now eventually just going to go off and find greener pastures, so to speak. But Robert actually 27 creeps to Ahri's 17. Not exactly the best of terms for them.
Robert X. Lee is certainly not hurting in terms of any of his departments. You know, he's not hurting in CS, he's not hurting in poke. The blue buff is really, really helping him out with that. He gets caught under tower. Ned is going to be able to allow him to escape, and at that point, Easy has no mana left. He can't continue to contest this, but in the top lane, you gotta be careful as Rumble is trying to kill Vayne.
Yeah, Vayne, a lot of damage coming out with that Flame Spitter, because we had Nami actually come into the mid. They really want to keep a hold of this tower, but that let Vayne one-on-one up against a Rumble. An early game, you know, that Vayne, she doesn't quite have those impacts that we would expect. I mean, late game, sure, mid game, no problem, but that early game, as we saw last round, not exactly there. So, you know, Nick Wu, very experienced top laner, Nick Wu the god, you know, but he took good advantage of that. So he's going to be forced back. We got more spam coming down here into the mid. They've been able to hold off the tower. It's now going into the 6-minute range. But what else is going on? Bottom lane, Lissandra's actually been forced out a little bit. But in terms of the farm, both Nidalee and Lissandra just kind of going neck and neck. But with Lissandra going home first, she has the double Dorans. So it looks like she's going to be down there a while yet.
Yeah. Gold Gaming really does not want this mid tower to go down. They sent Nami down there, leaving Vayne to solo top. Now, she is a ranged auto attacker, so she's going to be able to farm pretty well in the top lane, but she's going to have to be really careful not to take engagements against Nick Wu, because that is something that is going to be her shortcoming. Robert X. Lee taking a little bit of damage in the mid lane, but it looks like Gold Gaming are the ones who are going to start pushing out, but here comes Nunu. He's right back into the fight, and there goes the Blood Boil onto Robert X. Lee. He's going to be able to put down more damage and push as well, so a lot of standstills around the map. However, I have to call the advantage so far to FXOPEN for the amount of tower damage they have put down, as well as the fact that, you know, Vayne is still even with Caitlyn in farm, even though there's 2 mid and there's only 1 top for FXOPEN. So I think we might have to give the advantage right now to FXOPEN, and they're just about to take this tower, maybe with this minion wave.
Yeah, the minion wave is pretty big, but with that with the Spirit Fire, with the ball, you know, they are able to clear these out really easily. 256 hit points separates the first tower blood, or the first tower gold, coming out here for FXO. But top lane, you know, pressure's now on there. Nick Wu might be 6, but Vayne is now 5, has her Nami back as well. There was a fight in the bottom that we did miss, Arthalon versus Umashi, and Arthalon actually did get really low. Looks like that's kind of figured itself out, but here we go, the last bit of creep, and that is going to be Roberto X. Lee picking up that first tower to FXO.
In Heaven Time, he hasn't really been able to take as many jungle creeps as he wants, so he's a little bit underleveled for the amount of time, but he also drew Wapachang mid the entire time, so he's not underleveled in comparison to Gold Gaming's jungler, which is one of the bigger aspects of this game right now. So right now, FXOPEN is pretty far ahead, almost 1,000 gold difference. They do have a tower down. Looks like Heaven Time is going to go try to gank top lane. However, there is a ward there. Nami and Vayne are going to be able to see that and back off from it. He's going to go back and take his own blue buff. I think he might take it for himself this time.
Do we actually have vision? We do not. There we go. We do have vision. Wapachang, he's going to be considering a smite steal here. It does look like Heaven Time's just going to play it out a little bit cautiously. Now, Arthalon, we see the switch going on, right? We got the mid tower. Robert actually goes immediately bottom. Arthalon now here in the mid. He's going to be able to pick up that blue, and that's going to be, you know, really useful up against that Ahri when it comes to that mid lane. So I'm actually going to change him back now. How dare these guys change lanes? But this is what I was expecting Complexity Academy to do last game. Do that switch. Oh man, Nick Wu gets hit by that Aqua Prison. That's going to be Ulam with that final hour. I don't think it's going to be it for... Wow, Nick! He gets revived, but it wasn't quite enough. I almost expected Ulam to go back and just like kill secured, and then he walked away with sunglasses. But no, unfortunately not. First blood. Again, like Vayne coming out. Get her a few levels, get her a little bit of farm, and there's nothing she can't do.
Yeah, another thing, Nami. Great support right there, making all the action happen. Aqua Prism's doing really well, and Arthalon is actually being taken down a little bit in the mid lane. There goes the ultimate. Oh,
really nice positioning. Gets the return on that ball. That's going to be the flash, the heal. Arthalon is looking for the runaway. We're out of tricks. Easy. He already used that flash, and the range of the ball just not enough to pick up Arthalon. But the sad news is the turret did go down top lane, so we have kind of equalized there. The good news is we're going for a dragon here 9 minutes in.
Here, we're going to see some members of Gold Gaming. They're going to try to delay this dragon as long as possible for Nami and Vayne to get bot. They're doing a good job of it as well. They might be able to pinch. Here comes Ahri from the backline. She might be able to land a charm, but it looks like FXOPEN have already backed off. They know what's coming. They know that Nami and Vayne have left the top lane. So good play on both of these teams' parts, and they basically left the dragon. Gold Gaming was able to stop them from taking the dragon. Very good play on their part, and it looks like they're going to try to pressure down this mid lane tower. However, Rumble is on his way, and he does have his equalizer.
And there goes the tornado, a little bit of slow coming out on top of Wapa Chang. A nice spear, lots of damage amplified by the distance there. The equalizer, unfortunately, does not hit anyone. The Rune Prison will stop down Heaven time, but Nidus remains still kind of leading the charge. Even with the passive buff of movement coming out from Janna, looks like Umashi, however, got energetic on top of Robert X. Lee bottom lane. They weren't able to kind of grab anything there, and because of that, because everyone was mid, Umashi was able to solo down Caitlyn, and I don't know, are we going to be seeing this repeated history? You know, great starts for Caitlyn's leading into terrible fights for her, and she just ends up kind of not shining as she should?
We might. Caitlyn doesn't really shine in the straight-up 1v1 engagements as we saw last game against Vayne, and this game against Lissandra. Lissandra just has too much burst damage, and Caitlyn can't really do too much about it. Her biggest strength in the early game is poking, and her biggest strength in the late game is the fact that she can position really well because she has such a long range, and on top of that she also has headshot, which does a lot of damage after I think it's 6 attacks. So those are things that really help out long drawn out engagements, long range fights, but in a 1v1 it's not really going to work in her favor all that well. So that's really one of the biggest shortcomings of the Caitlyn players we've seen in these past couple games.
2 for 0 right now, so we had, you know, this really big pressure coming out from FXO, but they've dropped 2 kills. They've now actually dropped their own tower. They didn't get the dragon either, so in terms of the gold, they're slightly behind. 500 gold, hardly the end of the world. And in terms of the creeps going back and forth, the ADCs pretty much neck and neck. Our now mids, basically our Nidalee versus our Ahri in terms of the roles. A little bit in favor of that Ahri, but Lissandra has kind of outshone Nick Wu a little bit. So going back and forth, I mean, we've had some interesting lane switch-ups, some matchups. Overall, though, the farm's still kind of just neck and neck, as we said. You know, 500 gold, 400 gold difference, still anybody's game.
Looks like we're going for another dragon attempt. However, Gold Gaming sees this. I don't think they'll be able to stop it in time, as Heaven is going to try to consume it, but there goes the team fight.
Well, that's going to be the tornado at any rate. Here comes Easy with the ultimate, landing lots of damage. That's going to be the monsoon. Actually put her up across the cliff. Doesn't matter. Vayne grabs the double, looking for the triple on top of Nick Wu. Does land it. Arthalon running for it. Robert X. Lee not going to get hit by that charm. Easy's out of tricks, but that's going to be the flash forward with the Aqua Prison. Quadra kill comes out for Ulam, but it is going to be the return of Ahri. But either way, 4 kills for 1, and they're going to be able to pick up this dragon, assuming that a spear doesn't get in their way. But Arthalon is still going to try to be a thorn in their side.
And Umashi's going to try to stop that as well, trying to kill Arthalon, but he's still alive, going to try to throw out a couple more spears. Might actually be able to kill Wapa Chang, but doesn't. Dragon tanks that for her, and unfortunately doesn't kill the dragon either. So amazing team fight right there by Gold Gaming, and they sort of caught FXOPEN in a state where they didn't have too much in terms of direction on what they were going to do. And the entire time, Heaven Time was still fighting the dragons. Some of them were trying to retreat. Some of them were staying to try to fight the fight. You know, they didn't have the focus that they needed in that fight, and Gold Gaming just capitalized on that, picking up kill after kill. Almost every one of them stragglers, actually. And even though Nidus, with a great ultimate trying to save the rest of her team, Vayne was still in a great position to clean up the fight.
truly, truly outrageous, as our friend Tarek would say. But 4 for 1, and the Dragon. Sure, Arthalon tried his best. Kudos to him. Still 6-1. That gold lead went from less than 500 gold to 2.5k. I mean, that's a big balloon to go after that big team fight. So FX Open a little bit more here on the back foot. We're going to have to see how they're going to bounce back out of that one. But we're about to hit triple digits in farm here for Robert Exley. And he does have himself that BF sword. So very likely going to be going into the lifesteal, the Bloodthirster. But we already have, at the 14-minute mark, our Vayne with that Blade of the Ruined King. That is mind-boggling because she's sitting pretty at 5-0.
5-0 is certainly not something to be underestimated, especially on Vayne, where they're going to be able to get to a late game extremely quickly, and there goes Gold Gaming easy, trying to go ahead and pick up the kill onto Arthalon, popping her ultimate. However, you know, not quite securing the kill, but taking her down to a point where it's going to be hard for her to stay and defend this tower. She's low on mana. Even though she has blue buff, she's going to be able to spam heal a little bit, but they're going to get a little bit more pushing down. And more importantly, they're distracting her. They're not letting her collapse down onto the bottom lane, where Wappa Chang and Umashi are both pushing down extremely hard.
Vayne just used Final Hour, I guess, for extra last hits. Not entirely too sure. Maybe she was thinking that she could actually pick up Nick Wu, then just decided against it. Either way, it's not a huge
short cooldown.
Yeah, it's not a huge cooldown, so not really that big a deal. But either way, Umashi and Wappa Chang bottom lane, keeping Roberto Exley at bay. Umashi sitting at 132 creeps, has a kill, has that haunting guys. As long as we can just keep Caitlyn more on the defensive. I mean, Vayne right now is just soloing Korean style top. Like, she's just up there. She's 2 levels under Nick Wu, but no fear. No fear.
Oh yeah, especially when you have such a huge gold difference. Let's check the actual individual gold scores for those two. 4,100 for Nick Wu compared to 5,900 for Vayne. But it looks like a fight in the mid lane. Once again, these two duking it out. Easy juking a little bit, and they're going for the charm.
Wow, double flash comes out. Arthon with the ignite. Who's going to get it? This cleanse comes out, but it can't cleanse that ball damage. As does look like we are able to pick up the duo kills. However, top lane, Nami and Ulam were able to take down Nick Wu. He's dead up there in the bush. Poor little Rumble Yordle, but he cannot take on that Vayne. Vayne is starting to become a really big pain in the backside of FXO. Bottom lane, Robert Exley and Nidus remain still trying to hold off this aggression from Umashi, but again, they're just keeping her solidified here. It's 0-2-1 for Robert. He still doesn't have that Bloodthirster. Might have actually a little bit of cash, 978. So yeah, still a little bit off. He doesn't even have any lifesteal at this point. I just noticed that. Doesn't have that Vamp Scepter. And top lane, it's just going to be that pain train. Keep rolling. Top turret is not looking good.
Yep, in the bottom lane, you know, they're not looking for kills. All they want to do is keep the attention there. Heaven Time on Nunu is back there as well. So top lane, Ulum and Bunny Fufu are going to be able to push that down. One last auto attack is going to take the tower down, but they're going to fight anyway.
Well, Ulam is just going to, it looks like he's actually going to try to take out Nick Wu. Again, Arthalon, however, finally takes down Bunny Fufu as Ulam is now got a little bit out of tricks, out of mana, not looking so good on the hit points. Here comes Arthalon. The last dash is not going to be enough to take either of them. Double kill comes out for Arthalon. Really nice pickup for them. That's going to double their kills. That one team fight. Claw's going to come out here. Umashi gets hit by that tornado, interrupts the combo, gets exhausted on top of things. Robert actually lives slightly as Wappa Chang puts him down. And now with that Fury of the Sands, we're just taking away those Siphon Strikes and come out. Nidus remain. It's going to be dropping low. I don't think Wappa Chang has enough to just finish her off under tower, but all of a sudden, team fights everywhere.
Oh yeah, these team fights really big, and in the top lane with the Ulum and Bunny Fufu engagement, one thing I would have liked to see was a little bit more focused. You know, the entire time Bunny Fufu was being killed by Arthalon, and so I would have liked to see Ulum go and try to kill Arthalon instead, while you know her attention was focused on Nami the entire time, and she was putting out CC, trying her best to stay alive against Arthalon, and that would have been able to secure the kill on Arthalon. And on top of that, you know, Nick Wu may have been able to put a little bit more damage down onto Ulum, but at the same time, I think they would have won that fight overall if there was just a little bit more focus there. But on the bright side, they did end up taking out that top tower, so they're able to put the tower advantage back into their favor. 2 towers, and they're both in the top lane, actually. Well,
despite the difference in kills and that extra tower, it's still 2,000 gold difference. In fact, the gold difference shrank a little bit. Maybe the farming of Robert actually is finally starting to catch up to that divide. But 1-3-1, it's not going to be Bloodthirster. It is totally going to be an Infinity Edge for Mr. Robert. And 1-3-1, 140 creeps, no Vamp Scepter at all. Risky. I mean, we've seen the plays that Ulam's been making. He's 6-1-0, has not only the Ruin King, but as well that Zeal has 900 cash money as on top of things. That shouldn't be enough to pick up Phantom. Doesn't actually go for it anyways. He's going to get himself a Negatron cloak.
Yeah, odd that you mentioned that Caitlyn's going for, Robert X. Lee is going for the Infinity Edge first. Now, what that tells me is that Caitlyn wants to team fight. She wants to start team fighting very soon, whereas Bloodthirster is more of a skirmish sort of 1v1 fight item, where it amplifies her damage, but if she can stay in the back line of a fight, land headshots, land crits the entire time, then that's going to allow Infinity Edge to put out overall more damage than Bloodthirster would be able to. The main problem there is that they're not fighting these big full-on team fights, where we don't have the blood boil on Robert X. Lee when he's fighting these fights. So we want to see some more straight-up team fights from FXOPEN, and they can poke down quite a bit before they actually go in for the fight, and once they do, you know, there's a blood boil, there's a lot of damage down, as well as the equalizer to zone people out, as well as put down a lot of damage. So I do want to see a little bit more in terms of team fighting. The only problem is that they're going to have to be careful with their positioning when there's a Lissandra on the other team. It's hard to position against someone who can go ahead, flash in, or roll in with her E and go right for an Entomb. So a little bit tough spot for FXOPEN right now.
You can't also discount that Nami. Nami sets up a lot of these team fights with not only the Aqua Prison, but the Tidal Wave. I keep hearing pings of people dying. It's just spears going off on top of Umashi. He's catching them pretty solidly at this point. But there goes another one. Doesn't actually get hit that round. So we do have this Dragon alive. We kind of started it at one point. Not entirely too sure why GGOA backed off of it. No, that's going to be an ace. It's not an ace in the hole. Okay, Bunny Fufu's okay. It's all good. And because they kind of hesitated here at the Dragon, all right, GOA is going to take it. No problem.
There they are, and Bunny Fufu going to go ahead and stay alive through that engagement, just barely healing herself through the ace in the hole right there. So the biggest thing about that is the dragon pickup, but it looks like Arthalon is getting caught out by Easy once again. There goes the ultimate. One last proc, and there's the flash, just barely missing her Orb of Deception, unfortunately not securing the kill. Oh, wow.
Lots of aggression, lots of ults being thrown down. That extra dragon, however, again, just putting us a little bit over the 2,000 mark. There we go. Equalizing out turret for turret, so to speak. Still a turret advantage coming out for GGOA. Umashi has not really left this lane, like, ever. He's 1-1-4, hasn't really been dying, hasn't really been killing, has been farming up quite a bit. He's neck and neck there with Robert X. Lee, and now 21.5 minutes in, we do finally have that Infinity Edge, and I'm gonna guess a Zeal coming out after that. Brawlers and Daggers, still no lifesteal. And wow, final hour actually going off from Ulam as well. I guess we thought we could engage something, but lots of cooldowns now ticking.
Umashi on Lissandra actually has a pretty good case in terms of just wanting to stay bot and farm. At this point, she really wants to go ahead and finish up her...
yeah, it's going to be a needlessly
Zhonya's
large.
Hourglass.
Yeah.
Her Zhonya's Hourglass is what I'm trying to say, but basically that's going to allow her to team fight extremely well, and that's a really good item for Arthalon going in for the fight.
Yeah, that was the the initiation there by Easy with that spirit rush. Wappa Chang kind of got hit real hard by that Heaven Time ultimate. Throws down the flash just to get away from the spear, but that Absolute Zero did a lot of damage to that big beefy Nasus. Now the good news here is that FXOPEN doesn't have to worry about Lissandra, doesn't have to worry about Vayne. They're very publicly in those other lanes, so they're able to put up a lot of pressure here. They were hoping for a kill. Fortunately, it did not work, and that ward will live for now. So, oh, no, it won't. Never mind. That's an Oracle's. And yeah, here we go. The pressure coming up. Now, Vayne's still a little bit far off. Wappa Chang, no Fury of the Sands. We have no Spirit Rush either coming out from Ahri. Can we actually engage on this?
I don't know, they might have to try to risk a very big ultimate. Nami's ultimate could really engage the fight long enough for Vayne to come in, but it's just so risky because when you're this far away, it's very easy to dodge such a slow-moving ultimate right there. Ooh. Bunny Fufu taking that spear right to the face, taking a lot of damage from that, and it looks like the ace in the hole is also going to put out poke damage. You know, it's not too useful in the middle of a fight. You either use it at the beginning to poke down, or you use it at the end to secure a kill. And it just puts out more damage if you're sitting there auto-attacking, especially with Blood Boil. But after the tower, here comes the initiation.
Yeah, GGLA Easy. He says, all right, it's time. We're going in. Heaven Time flashing away. The Equalizer comes out just to try to slow things down. Wappa Chang with the Spirit does not actually land. That's a great tornado. That's not even. That's a tidal wave, and that's a double kill for Lissandra. Looking for the double now on Ulam. Does not actually grab it. Ahri did go down to Robert X. Lee. too many words with the letter T. I called a tidal wave a tornado as it.
Well, it certainly knocked everyone up as well. And the biggest thing about that...
Oh wow,
Whoa.
oh wow.
Ooh,
Do we have another ace? No, we don't. Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter, crit. There goes the Infinity Edge,
Yeah,
there you go.
That Infinity Edge coming out hard, man.
I wanted to go back to that Nami ultimate for a second, the tidal wave. One of the biggest strengths of that specific ultimate was the fact that Ulum was way far ahead. He would have been out of position were it not for that Nami ult. Everyone who was making a beeline straight towards Ulum got knocked up. They couldn't do anything while he was killing Nick Wu. Once Nick Wu was dead, Ulum had free reign over everything else as well. Unfortunately, on the retreat, they took one too many spears and ended up getting killed a little bit at the end of that. But all in all, the actual team fight itself was a good team fight for Gold Gaming.
Totally forgot about the rune set that Robert Lee was running. He has 4% of that lifesteal in the runes. I remember that now. He also has 0.93% crit, I believe, on his rune page. So all in all, he has 34% crit. And you saw the damage numbers coming out of them. Like 800 crits on some of those minions. And I think he was critting... What did he hit? Nasus. Yeah, the Nasus was hit by something like the 400 range, which absolutely just decimated his hit points. So looks like, you know, Robert Exley, he knows best. 3-3-1. He came out of that one pretty good. He was 1-3, now 3-3. Nick Wu might be actually going down, but nope, there's here comes the cavalry. Fine, he'll go down. That's all right. But yeah, so is Vayne. Arthalon goes unstoppable. Wow, 6-1-2 on our Nidalee. That's starting to become quite a threat.
It's quite a bit, yes, indeed. And now one thing that I'm noticing about the builds is that even though a lot of crit damage is going down from Robert X. Lee with the Infinity Edge, there's not too much armor for the Gold Gaming. It looks like Umachi is going to try to catch out Heaven Time.
Yeah, that's going to be the Frozen Tomb on top of him. Heaven Time. That's going to be a claw. Yeah, no... Flash. I guess he doesn't have flash up. Nope, he doesn't have flash up. I expected him to flash over the wall. Didn't quite work. Bunny Fufu's looking not so hot. Robert Exley over the wall, grabs that kill, goes on a killing spree. Now Umashi's not looking so healthy either. Easy with the ultimate just to try to get away. Umashi with the claw avoids the Piltover. Arthalon doesn't care.
To say the least. Actually, wow, Umashi didn't pop Zhonya's that fight. He had Zhonya's up. He could have Zhonya's under the tower to survive at least survive a little bit longer. He was going to die anyway, but long enough for the rest of his team to capitalize on it and perhaps catch Robert X. Lee under the tower or catch Arthalon under the tower. That's something that, you know, unfortunately not quite using those actives, and Wappa Chang just getting poked out so hard right underneath the tower. Those crits doing so much damage right now. And like I said before, there isn't a lot of armor for Gold Gaming right now, and I think for the most part they're banking on the fact that, alright, if we can survive the poke damage, we have better full-on engage, so that once we engage the fight, we don't really need to worry about armor too much so long as we're healthy once we engage the fight. But at the same time, you know, Robert X. Lee, he's got so much of his own poke with his range that he's factoring into the poke war as well. You have to build armor against this on top of that, and Lissandra's really the only one who's doing that right now.
Ulam's going to go high on top of Heaven Time. That's not going to be the taunt, but it will be the equalizer. Nick Wu is going to get out of that one, but it is going to be a dragon for GGLA, assuming that the spear doesn't actually grab it. Arthalon not going to get it, but that's alright. GGLA grabs a little bit extra gold. They're still ahead in terms of gold, still got that 4-kill advantage, but they're down in turrets, and now Robert Exley has climbed from 1-3 to 4-3, has that Phantom Dancer on top of things. We saw him critting out on top of Wappa Chang as he takes another spear to the face. Another one coming out. That's going to be Bunny Fufu. Yeah, it's getting hard to engage up against this Nidalee.
Oh yeah, Wappa Chang is really desperately trying to finish his bulwark right there. He really wants to give his entire team the magic resist to survive some of those spears even longer. And even though Negatron cloaks on 2 members of Gold Gaming, they're not really defending well against Arthalon's spears. Now, hopefully they're going to be able to defend this tower, however. No, it's going to go down. The inhibitor is still up, however. So FXOPEN has gone back after that, but when you have a bear inhibitor, it's going to be really hard for them to actually fight back after this. You know, they can't force too many fights in the bottom lane or in the top lane or in Baron too much, because the mid lane is going to start pushing little by little in the favor of FXOPEN, and Wappa Chang taking another spear right there. But I do like the fact that he has an Oracles right now, because if he denies the vision of FXOPEN, then they're not going to get caught out by as many spears. They're not going to get caught out by Roberto X Lee because, you know, Arthalon, he might be able to just throw out a random blind spear every now and again, but if he doesn't aim it, it's not really going to be nearly as effective. So I love the Oracle's pickup on Wapachang. Not
something you see a lot, especially in terms of some of these, you know, higher tier games, but Nidus Remain has a Mikhail's Crucible. And between the cleanse from Robert X Lee, as well as now the Crucible, and all the, you know, defensive options that Janna does bring to that ADC support combo, I don't think they're really too worried about Wither at all anymore.
Yeah, I don't think so either. They're doing fairly well in this game right now. Umashi just going to try to poke out Nidus as much as possible, trying to get the Baron aggro as well, taking them down just a little bit. Every little bit counts in these fights, especially when you have someone like Vayne who can clean up really easily. They need to get Vayne in the position to win these team fights. They're just taking so much damage before the team fights even start that it's not really mattering too much, because if there's no tank, if Wapachang gets taken down too quickly, then there's nothing for Ulum to hide behind. They do have quite a bit of CC, but they need that front line to protect Vayne.
Alright, so Robert actually does not panic, does not blow out that cleanse. Ate the Wither, nothing actually happened after that, but Wapachang still in the front here. 108 armor, 99 magic resist, still gets chunked down either by the spears or by Robert X Lee. It's really a damned if you do, damned if you don't kind of situation. You can either avoid the spears and get auto attacked and crit, or you can get crit and try to avoid the spears. But that's going to be Umashi jumping in with that flash. Great Monsoon, just throws him out of the party. Now everyone's just kind of spread out. Umashi is going to be able to Zonius right through that spear. Ulum, however, able to pick up a kill. Robert X Lee is going to be caught in the back, and now he's down. And all of a sudden, 3 for 0. Really nice engage out of GGLA.
Oh yeah, completely. We're seeing over and over and over again Nami turning fights around so easily, and Arthalon is going to go ahead and try to kill Umashi. One last spear is going to be able to take him down. He's godlike now. 8, 1, and 3. However, he's been doing that the entire time. He's going to try to push down that bottom tower. Pings are going out for it. Actually, no, he's going straight for the inhibitor, so they might actually end up trading inhibitor for a couple of turrets. Easy is going back, but I'm not sure if he's going to be able to defend against this alone, especially after Arthalon puts out so much damage, and there goes the tower. He's going to be able to get it with the amount of attack speed that he gets from his heal. So a tower for an inhibitor, unfortunately they didn't see that backdoor coming. They didn't have wards in their own jungle, and wow, Nidalee just backdooring the entire time. Not only 8, 1, and 3, but also doing quite a bit of damage to those structures.
And to top it off, a fresh enemy blue buff for his consumption. 18-12 GGLA, you know, looks like they did win out that fight, but Arthalon really brought it back in terms of par as to who came out ahead of that one. They got themselves that inhibitor. They did trade out 4 for 2, I believe, or 3 for 2, but they did lose the tower. So in terms of all things, the gold still within $2,000 between these teams.
And still within $2,000. Oh no, one thing I'd like to note is the fact that both Nick Wu and Heaven Time aren't really having too nice of a time in terms of the amount of deaths. They have 6 and 5, but at the same time, you know, it doesn't really matter too much. The ones that are putting out the damage are Arthalon and Robert X Lee. Those are the ones that want to stay alive throughout the entire fights, and if Heaven Time gets killed while trying to tank out and be that tanky front line for the rest of his team, well then, you know, it's worth it if they can win the fight afterwards. And, you know, taking an inhibitor, even if they lose a couple people, it's still worth it. It's still a fight that went into their favor. And right now, Super Minions are pushing down the mid tower. Gold Gaming is on the back foot. They have to make sure that they keep the mid lane pushed out as much as they can. Otherwise, it's going to be starting to knock into their own base.
Now, it could have been worse. It could have been a side lane that actually got knocked out. For example, their bottom. If it had been their bottom, then we could have set up some situations, some nice split pushes where you got to force out somebody to go defend bottom, you take a Baron, or you take a top. Thankfully, though, it was mid. So GGOA, they can afford the luxury of just kind of hanging around mid, decimating all the super creep waves that come in, while still guarding out this Baron. It's something that they really don't want to lose at this point. And hey, if they can't get it, then you can't either. It's, you know, it's a childish mentality, back to my toddler days, but it's going to work out here, hopefully, for GGOA, if they don't go too far from this path.
Umashi does have his Zonias now, so that's going to help him in these teamfights quite a bit. He's going to be able to claw in, initiate with Entomb on whoever he wants, not just himself, but he could stun, say, Arthalon, he could stun Robert X Lee, one of those big damage dealers, and then Zonias directly afterwards to make sure that he still defends himself against some of that damage. Or, as we keep saying before, that 5-second invulnerability on him, and here we go with another team fight.
Yeah, Mashi comes in. We also had Ahri come in, but she got rejected real hard. Heaven Time goes down. That's Nick Wu with the Zonias. He's going to be dead in the back. Double kill comes out there for the Vayne. Easy's looking for the kill on top of Nidus remain. Robert is still in the back with Arthalon. They're going to be making a hasty retreat. They did drop 2 for 0, but chasing out a Nidalee with that Janna, with the jukes that are available in her Predator form, and those spears, man, just able to chunk down Gold Gaming Los Angeles. It makes it a very hard case just to try to get those long distance kills. But hey, they traded out 2-0. They relieved the pressure a little bit. They got to go back home. They got to defend these super creeps coming because they're marching for the win.
And that's one of the other big things about this mid lane inhibitor is that they took that fight top lane, but now super minions are in their own base. So those are pressure things that they can't really take, and there goes the another initiation. Yeah,
Arthalon gets hit by that taunt. Robert Exley with the Piltover didn't actually. Wow! Arthalon going friggin' legendary. 9-1-3. The god of Nidalees has appeared, ladies and gentlemen. All of a sudden, 2 for 1, and now they might be able to Baron that in peace.
Oh yeah, Baron in peace is certainly the word to use right there. Arthalon, if anyone tries to contest, he's just going to keep throwing spears and spears over the wall, and by the time Baron gets low enough for someone to try to jump over and smite steal, whoever it is going to be on such a low amount of health that it's not really going to matter too much. Wapachang does not have his flash up. He's going to have to try to blind this. Arthalon is going over the wall, though.
Yeah, doesn't have a flash up. What's he doing? Okay, Heaven Time's going to take it out. Arthalon, however, kind of got baited there. Wapachang with the ult. That's going to be the equalizer up there as well. It's not going to be a kill on top of Ulum. So Baron for an Arthalon. Hey, they got the shutdown spree money. Not exactly, you know, a fair trade, but it could have been worse. Ace in the hole is going to come out, or not. Zonia's lucky duck, that Unashi. But still, 1 for 0. They still were denied that Baron. So GGOA still on the back foot here, but they're just going to go straight down, pick up that dragon. Curious to see if they're going to push down the bot as well.
And they did kill Arthalon, so they're keeping the 40 ability power out of her hands. They're keeping the mana and health regen out of her hands, so that's pretty good for them. However, you know, the 4 members of FXOPEN, the other 4, still have Baron, so that's going to help them out in team fights as well. And even though Gold Gaming were winning some of these team fights, it's going to be harder and harder now that FXOPEN does have the Baron buff. So it's going to be really hard for Gold Gaming to get back into this game. They do win team fights. The only problem with that is that they can't push out when they win it. They have to win convincing team fights, and by convincing, I mean at this point, you can't let Arthalon or Robert X. Lee live. Otherwise, they're going to be able to split push towers, they're going to be able to poke you to death, and you know, you might win a 5 for 4 trade, but if Arthalon is still left alive, you know, he can keep chucking spears and maybe bring 1 or 2 kills back into his own team's favor. So unless they get a really good amount of kills onto Robert X. Lee as well as Arthalon, they're not going to be able to push out as well as they would like to after they win team fights.
So many wards here for this blue. Nick Wu going to come in. They're really trying to contest this blue. I would go so far as to say just kill Arthalon, and you're going to be able to make something happen. I'm not entirely too sure because, as we've seen before, you know, not a huge amount of mobility there for Robert Exley. He does have that Janna buff to help him just get in and out with the mobility, but if you had to kill anybody, take down Arthalon, get rid of those spears, remove that danger, the Juke Master himself, and hopefully you will be able to get something happening. Now, Heaven Time, he's going to drop a little bit low, took a bit too much harass just trying to put out that, I'm not entirely sure what he was doing over there, but he just wanted to walk that way, and Ahri gave him a little bit of hassle for it. 13-21. FXO, they're still in this game. The kills are really a lie in terms of the gold, because the gold is pretty much, again, dead even, and we're still pushing up. Can we engage on a Baron buff team at this point?
They might be able to. They have to win a really, really good engagement in order to do that. They have to catch a lot of people out, and there goes the initiation.
Yeah, well, they definitely caught a few of them out. Nick Wu with that Zonia, a great awkward prison. That's going to be the cleanse there from Robert Exley. Unstoppable comes out as Vayne just going lots of damage on top of this team, but now that front line is gone. He has to get back. Heaven Time is still alive. Surprisingly, Robert Exley, though, with those crits. Arthalon with the spear able to take down Ahri. Nidus remains still pushing forward, and unfortunately it does not look like that worked out whatsoever. The ace comes out, nearly takes down the Bunny Fufu, but Vayne is dead on the ground as well, and there goes the turret. So that Baron buff in the end kept FXO alive, and now they're going to push in for their second, at least, inhibitor turret, if not the second inhibitor. Now we have at the middle spawned up The middle actually pushing really hard for GGLA there in the base, but I don't think they care.
They certainly don't. 35 seconds until Ulum is back up. They're going to try to defend this tower as much as possible. And I like to go back to that last fight we saw before. It was really not only the Baron buff, but a great initiation by FXOPEN. They fought that fight really well. The Equalizer was able to cut off a lot of members of Gold Gaming, as well as put down a lot of damage onto all of their members. And you know, Ulum couldn't get close enough to the fight to put out the damage because an Equalizer was directly in the way. So it looks like that's going to be GG. FXOPEN continues their win streak, now 3-0.
3-0 here in week number 2, day number 1. Very impressive stuff from them. You know, it looked a bit shaky there. I didn't actually think that FXO was going to be able to pull that one back based upon the results that we saw last game, but can never discount Robert Exley. Well played to them. Mobafire Challenger Series, that was game number 3. FXO takes the win over GGL.